Are you looking to travel a path not many have been down? A path with 2 national parks, 2 climates, 1 train, possible aliens, countless constellations, and a whole lot of sagebrush along the way? Look no further than the Park to Park in the Dark road trip. As a national park addict, one of my goals for 2025 was to visit a lesser-known park that's close to Idaho, Great Basin National Park. After researching it a bit, I learned about a slightly gimmicky but still fun road trip that takes you from Great Basin straight across the middle of barren Nevada to a much more well-known place, Death Valley National Park. Over Memorial Day weekend, I recruited my mom to join me on this 3-day, 1,000-mile adventure. Keep watching to hear where we went, what we did, to help you plan your own Park to Park in the Dark trip. We spent our first 2 nights in Ely, Nevada. This is the nearest town to Great Basin and is very big with hunters and fishers. I chose to book us at the Hotel Nevada, which during the town's boom period was the tallest building in Nevada. It has 6 whole floors. The hotel is a total throwback to old hotels and casinos, and there were lots of pictures of Roy Rogers. That night we took a train ride on the Sunset Train. Once a month, park rangers take this train to tell people about the constellations. We were on the wrong night for that, but we did have an astrophysicist on our train who told us about the satellite project they're hoping to build. This area all across Nevada has very dark skies, so there are lots of stars to see and science to be done. We were treated to some good stargazing on the way back to the train station. The next morning we got up early to make the hour-long drive to Great Basin National Park. We had reserved tickets to go on a tour of Lehman Caves. While this park doesn't get nearly the number of visitors that go to next door's Utah's parks, you still need to reserve tickets to the train and the caves early because they sell out during the summer. I get claustrophobic, so I was really nervous going into the cave, but luckily it started out with a bang and was pretty enough to take my mind off the fact that I was below a whole lot of dirt. I visited many of the national park caves, and this one was right up there in quality. There weren't a ton of different colors, but there were a lot of unique formations, so it was really beautiful. Before I knew it, an hour had gone by and we were making our way back to the sun. One of the main draws of Great Basin is that there are Bristlecone Pines here. These trees are thousands of years old, some say the oldest living species on the planet, and I really wanted to see them. Unfortunately, Great Basin is really high, over 10,000 feet high in some places, and since we were there in May, this meant there was still a lot of snow on the hiking trails. I first hiked to Stella Lake and had to cross a couple of snow patches, but on the Bristlecone Trail, I ran into so much snow that I had to turn back. I was really disappointed, but the park is stunning, so I'll be sure to come back 1 year later in the summer. The next morning, we set out to drive across most of the state, ending in the mining town called Tonopah, which according to Atlas Obscura is the town in the U.S. that is the furthest from a McDonald's. We didn't take a direct route to Tonopah, instead swinging south to the Cathedral Rock State Park. This was a late addition to the itinerary, but man, am I glad we added it. This park is full of slot canyons, and when you look at these formations, they don't seem like canyons, but when you get close, you can wind back pretty far into some of them. The temperature was much cooler after winding into a canyon. One of the areas was called Moon Caves, and you definitely felt like you were on a different planet. After Cathedral Gorge, we kept heading south until we met up with Nevada State Highway 375, otherwise known as the Extraterrestrial Highway. It gets this name from being the highway that goes past Area 51, and I'm sure there have been all sorts of reports of unexplained phenomena along this route. We saw lots of interesting phenomena, like a store selling ET jerky, which I'm pretty sure was just cow, several spaceships, and the Alien Research Center. Unfortunately, there were no green creatures along the road, just a lot of green Joshua trees, although these trees look pretty alien now that I think about it. We got to Tonopah in time to take a tour of the mining park. This town's legend is that back in 1900, Jim Butler's donkey wandered off, and when he picked up a rock to throw it at the poor guy, he noticed that the rock was no ordinary rock. He'd found what would become one of the largest silver mining areas in the nation, and in so doing, saved Nevada from going bankrupt. We rolled into town on the annual Jim Butler Festival and got to celebrate with the locals. Unfortunately, we had missed the state mining tournament earlier that day, which would have been fun to see. Maybe next time. I was really looking forward to seeing a lot of stars that night, being as we were in the middle of nowhere, and while the stars were pretty impressive, the sunset might have taken the cake. The next morning, we made the final part of the drive to Death Valley National Park. Our first stop of the day was Badwater Basin, since we were planning to go outside and walk at the lowest point in North America and didn't want to melt the temperatures later that day. The salt flat at the basin was very strange, and it really looked like snow I had seen 2 days before at a much higher elevation. Even though in May it was still pretty cool for this area, it was already 99 degrees at 11 a.m. I had no desire to hike more in the heat, so instead we drove up very cool one-way path called Artists' Palettes Road, named for the different colors of the rocks. It was very pretty and very appropriately named. We finished out our time in Death Valley at the Visitor Center watching an interesting film about the area. That night, we stayed in the nearby town of Bishop, which was celebrating the annual Mule Day Festival. Driving to Bishop, I noticed a stunning mountain range, and it turns out this is the famous part of the Sierra Nevadas, and Mount Whitney, the tallest mountain in the continental U.S., was very close by. It was quite the difference from the negative 228 below sea level at Badwater Basin to 14,500 Mount Whitney, less than 50 miles away. The park-to-park in the dark road trip was a big success. Other than the snow-blocked path at Great Basin, we had great weather and were able to see lots of really interesting places. I highly recommend this itinerary to anyone wanting to explore these awesome national parks. Subscribe to our channel for more travel-related content. Happy adventures!